Thank you for watching our YouTube channel, and make sure you like and subscribe.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our second podcast for Mindfulness, and we're back again with Dr. Joey Webber.
Hi there, nice to be here again, looking forward to this chat.
Good. And we have Joy, our student social worker, and myself, Helena. And today we're going to look into the concept of equanimity.
You pronounced it right.
Been struggling to say that for quite a while. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about exactly what equanimity is?
Okay, yeah, so last week we talked about mindfulness and like what it is and how it might be useful and some of the ways that strategically like immersed in different arenas, and social work being a platform, an area I think that could have quite a lot of benefit for mindfulness, for the work stress balance, and because it's a relational thing, so you're always mindful of something. So it could be mindful of your breathing, mindful of your emotions, mindful of the environment. You're bringing your full senses to everything, and it's very demanding work, isn't it? I think. So it requires quite a lot of emotional regulation. Constant, actually. And you kind of ask to do one after the other different emotive tasks, maybe. So really your social worker's emotions are like this.
Fluctuation up and down.
All the time. So not only have you got to manage that and cope with that, but you've also got to switch off at the end of a day and then restart the day after. So highly complicated. Yeah, so you all need medals.
Thank you. We do.
So mindfulness would help you manage the micro moments of the day and allow you to look inward at how you are coping on a moment-to-moment basis, on a periodically, however you use it. It'll be good to look at how your emotions are fluctuating, and just by bringing your awareness and attention to them and letting go or just being present with whatever's there will actually release this kind of emotion rather than thinking about it all the time. Because it's the thoughts and the thought trap of constantly thinking about what's gone before or what's coming next that kind of makes this very knotted feeling, and it just like sits here. So when you're working, you're always never really present because there's so much baggage. We all do it, not just, everyone's doing it all the time. So mindfulness really helps with that. Equanimity I perceive as different, and it hasn't got much attention yet. It's slow moving traffic, but it started. And equanimity is different because with mindfulness there's if we break it down a little bit, there's attention, there's awareness, there's kind of an openness, a curiosity, present moment kind of understanding. You're also non-judgmental. That's one of the facets that everyone talks about, non-judgment, present moment non-judgment. And actually, when I started the research, I found that non-judgment is actually a very difficult thing to do. And actually, is it really that healthy to be non-judgmental? And that's by opening up an area of discussion to say, actually, we are judgmental. Humans are judging all the time.
Even if we try to act like we don't.
Exactly.
You just see someone and you just judge the person, even without you knowing. It's just a human thing, really.
It's automatic. So we have been all brought up differently, different conditions upon us. We've got parents, carers, childhood experiences, schooling, you name it, political climate, media, everything, media, all of that lot, all on us. And in effect, it's conditioned us to judge certain ways. So they may not truly be our ways, really, if we go, actually, if we wrote on paper and we were a blank canvas, what would I...
more about it.
If we think a bit more about it, we might not necessarily have the same judgments, but they're there. So I think with non-judgment, there's a very fine line between non-judgment and equanimity, because instead of like not judging the judgments, because you know you're told to be non-judgmental, but you've got a judgment, but you're just kind of going
like
not
you're
judgmental.
yeah.
Instead of that happening, which actually could be dangerous, because it could be teaching you and conditioning you to emotionally withdraw or suppress, avoid, you know, because you're like, oh, I won't deal with that, and I'm a nice person, you know, that type of thing. Especially in this environment where you're talked all the time, be compassionate, be nice, service centre first, service user first, all that lot. It's like, you know, sometimes you really put a lot out there, and you kind of you're doing a good act, but really, if you want to become more authentic, I think it's more healthy to look towards your judgments and observe them, monitor them, and then with wisdom and compassion, you can then let them go, if you wish. So you can consciously choose to respond or react, rather than just automatically judging. So it's kind of, instead of like a barrier or buffer, non-judgmental, you're kind of open towards your own experience internally.
Because I think service users might be able to, well, not just service users, but people generally, I think they can sort of get an inkling when you're not being authentic sometimes. And I think maybe that had come across as a way that you're becoming authentic. It's a bit back to front, isn't it?
I just feel it's more like balancing things up, not being too like blunt or being too judgmental, just like creating a balance between the both sides. Do you get what I mean?
I think in the dictionary, equanimity is a balance.
Creating a balance.
There's balance is a key term, because it refers to kind of an even-minded, you know, and if you were to go in the dictionary, you know, even tempered, no matter what happens, you know, that type of language. So that's definitely like an outcome, perhaps. We want to like boil it down so we can really understand how our minds can get like that. Because, you know, if you say, oh, just be balanced, just be even tempered, it's like, how can you do that? There's no instruction there. So it's an oxymoron, non-judgment. We are judgmental, so look towards them, and we have this wisdom and compassion, because like we have our own insight, and it could be insight through what we've learned or experience, it could be intuition, whatever it is, there's something there that kind of guides us, and you kind of you're tuning into that, but you're also recognizing that some of your judgments that you might have also could be fabricated, and so what we're trying to do is temporarily just release that.
So it's sort of getting that balance, because sometimes your judgment, obviously, you don't want to go in a car with a stranger, so you judge that person as maybe, well, should I say, a little bit dodgy, like maybe I'm not going to do this, but it's getting that balance then, that's, you know, if someone, whether you go with someone or you don't go with someone, but sometimes that judgment is maybe needed for your own safety. Would you say?
So inner equanimity would be awareness of the fact that we are categorizing experience. So every single experience is either going to be a positive, good, or a negative, dislike, or neutral. So one of those three, there's nothing else that we can experience.
I remember that from the book.
The good, the bad, and the neutral. The like, dislike, you know, plain, you know, whatever it is. So the thing is, with the likes and dislikes, if it's something we like or we judge in a positive way, we become quite passionate about that and strong. It's very hard to remove that position. If it's a negative, if we've judged it bad or whatever, if we perceived it as a dislike, we actually don't want to be part of it, because we feel uncomfortable. We withdraw. And if it's neutral, which is most of the time, we're not really bothered about it, so we're just kind of not bothered about it. So inner equanimity is observing that your mind does that in the first place. So I'm aware that no matter what I'm categorizing. And then you bring non-reactivity to it, so you're accepting that it's there, you're non-reactive to it, and then you're acting with compassion. but for yourself as well as that. So you're always grounded and guided by compassion, but you're just aware of what's going on. And it's that awareness, it's like a little torchlight to go, okay, this is happening. It is actually very therapeutic, I think. And it moves away from potential avoidance or withdrawal and suppression and things like that, and brings you into alignment and true authenticity.
Yeah, and I like the idea because it's sort of taking the judgment off yourself as well.
Yeah.
'Cause you can feel bad if you think, because I think there's been times when I've spoke to people and maybe they can look a bit mean and a bit tough, and, and then you'll have a conversation
and
with them,
like,
and they're actually
they
really
not
nice
that
people.
Bad. Yeah, and you feel like I just judged this person.
You come away thinking, oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I mean that can happen a lot, right? How many times do we, prejudge, preconceive things, and then it's a different outcome?
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like releasing that from us. It's like that's happened for a reason. Like you brought up a getting in the car analogy. To me, that sounds a lot like media stories, horror stories of kidnapping and giving little kids sweets and and in Halloween, and it's all dangerous now.
I think I watched too much true.
It has happened, right? But actually, when you look statistically, there's a lot less chances of that. And actually, it's still good perhaps to have that carefulness, right? Because you bring in a bit of wisdom to it. You've learned it somewhere. But then at the same time, if that was to just rule the show, then you potentially just lost a lot of anxiety all the time, because it's all... So you could just be aware of that. And so inner equanimity, it brings me on to another thing called discernment. And that's when you really know good, bad, morality. There is that there. You can still... Those things still guide the world. So it's not like you completely become robotic. You're just aware of it. And you're fully embracing your emotions.
In the same way?
Sorry?
Do we learn discernment in the same way, or is that like an innate, an inbuilt thing?
What do you think?
Oh.
For discernment, I don't think you learn that. I don't think it has to do with learning. I think it's just feeling. I think discernment has to do with feeling. I feel like this is wrong, or I feel like this is just like more like a strong feeling. I don't think it's something you learn. You just feel that looking at this person or looking at this thing, I just feel like it's not right. Yeah, like you said, knowing the difference between the good and the bad. Yeah, so it's just, you just feel it. Maybe due to things you know, things you've seen, things you've heard. So it could that could influence the way you feel about certain things. So I just feel discernment is all about a strong feeling of what is good and what is bad.
What's right and wrong. Yeah. I mean, you could argue, that's also been conditioned by your parents or your religion or whatever you brought into.
Or the media or what you've heard or the society in general.
It gets philosophical. So I think it's good to separate equanimity from discernment, because discernment's there and it guides us. Equanimity is being more aware of what's potentially conditioned and no longer useful, and just being aware of what you're bringing to the table. And then, of course, I put an outer definition of equanimity too, because that's going on in us all the time. So when we externalize that to others, it's simple as recognizing, well, if that's happening to me, it's happening to you, it's happening to you, and everyone. So what I would do then, because I don't know the conditioning that's happened between how you were raised, brought up, all the influences, traumas, then I extend patience of your discrimination faculties. So when I said dislike, and neutrality, I call them discrimination faculties. That's how we discriminate. So there's 3 tones. So I'm now aware that you're gonna have these tones. So I exercise patience, but I also exercise the same thing as I would do with myself, with insight, wisdom, and compassion as well. So I'm always acting in this compassionate way. For you guys too, and that means that sometimes you don't become a doormat as well. Because some people like to put all this type of stuff in a little bracket of being over the top, fluffy, nice. And you're just always, you know, thinking about your own feelings and working around, and so you're never really like really standing up for yourself or allowed to express. But that's where I say that that's not correct, because you want to be able to discern what's correct, what's not correct, what's right, wrong. You want to be also aware of your judgments. Equanimity doesn't mean being passive.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, oh, just because I'm equanimity, oh, it doesn't matter, what goes, it comes, it goes, it's balance, whatever. You know, it's a complete misconception. It's actually quite directly active. There's an active component to it. So
to me, this sounds like really important for society as a whole. So, because we're looking out for each other, aren't we? We're not thinking of just ourselves. So, one thing I was interested in is, do you think it could change the world?
I mean, what I've done with this research is try and secularize it. So, like mindfulness has done, it's been secularized. I'm interested in secularizing equanimity. So, without doubt, if it was practiced, it could have some real positive change. Because you're then working with bias, division, you're actually looking at harmonizing and connecting with people, groups, you know. So if you just look at the state of the world and society, it's very, very divided. It's always divided, always got its political factions, etc., and it's always got countries and, you know, nations and communities, and it is all divided. But at the same time, we actually do share more similarities than we do differences. And this would be a way of relating to different people's biases and your own without actually having that emotive hatred, because you bring your mindfulness too with it, and then you've got a kind of like, well, we can sit and have different opinions. Doesn't mean we have to not like each other. Doesn't mean we have to fall out. You know, even if there's something you really detest, it's like we could still hold that in the same space and understand it through equanimity, rather than using difference as a tool to kind of disengage. You know, that's massive in social work when you're dealing with different service users' needs and histories and actions, and then how you relate to those and all the plans in place.
Yeah, that's really good. So you mentioned before about inner and outer equanimity. So in layman's terms, can you explain that for us?
Well,
or is that not able to be?
I was hoping that was layman's terms.
Okay.
You got discrimination faculties, wisdom and compassion.
Okay.
And then your outer, patience towards discrimination faculties, wisdom and compassion.
Okay.
But it's this awareness, heightened sense of awareness. So with mindfulness, you become aware. With equanimity, it becomes heightened. You're looking at your own discrimination mind. You're understanding your own conditioning a bit. With that, you become wiser, and you can act accordingly.
I see. Thanks. That's clear enough.
So it could be like, you know, you can just say balance in the end. But it's about balancing out who you are.
Okay.
And understanding where you've come, why you're there, and how you are, and also looking at who you want to become.
Okay. I mean, this sounds really, really effective. So why do you think it's not more well known? Mindfulness?
I mean, mindfulness only came into the scene really when the neuroscience kicked off in the 70s, 80s, 90s, more recently. I think the publications were like, and now it's like everyone's mindfulness this, so they're testing it in loads of different cohorts, right, groups and experience, randomised control trials, etc. Wonderful. But someone like a PhD student like me comes in and, you know, taught to be critical, taught to look at things a bit close, and I've got a bit of a Buddhist background, and I was like, well, actually, look, if we could look at equanimity, because I don't think the non-judgmental stuff's right, or it doesn't sit perfectly at the moment. If you look at equanimity and bring that into the mix, and the whole package can be even more therapeutic. So that's the idea. So actually, one of the scales for equanimity, psychometric scale, was one of the first in the world is what I created, the equanimity barrier scale. And there's been two more since. I mean, I say the first in the world. there may have been others, but from all the literature that I looked at, there was hardly anything there on equanimity. And every time it was talked about, it was different ideas, you know, it was like balance or... So I thought, right, let's make it clear what's inner, what's outer, this is the model, this is how we judge the way we judge, and then let's look at I looked at a scale to what's in the way of equanimity, so why we are so judgmental, so barriers to equanimity, yeah. So hopefully, you know, in 10, 20 years it'll be like mindfulness is.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, hopefully it'll
maybe not,
keep
but
growing and
I mean, that's the beauty of research, isn't it? People have different ideas, different creative insights, you know, they test things and things develop from it. So maybe there'll be some interest and a body of work will be created about equanimity. Now there needs to be tested, there needs to be studies done on equanimity, because, you know, I'm just saying blah, blah, blah. It might not make real sense when it's applied, or, you know, I also look at different meditations, so not just mindfulness meditation, but equanimity meditation. So does that have a different effect on the brain? If so, where? You know, how, why, how long does it last? You know, there's so much stuff to to look at. I
mean, I did appreciate in the book how you cited yourself, cited your own studies.
Yes, so was
quite enjoyed that.
So you just mentioned equanimity meditation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it all about?
Well, your mindfulness one's all about the senses and looking at your breath.
Yeah.
And as an anchor, or it could be sound, whatever you're using, but becoming present.
Yeah.
Equanimity meditation is a little bit like, I call it like equalizing meditations, and it's to do with categories. So, you know, the good, like, and neutral. So really what you can do is, there's a meditation out there that has a category or someone that you like, or a category of people that you like, and you extend like the kind of same wishes to them, like you want them to be happy, peaceful, blah-de-blah. You know, then you do the same to the category of neutral people. Or you could imagine, you know, someone who just served me petrol in the petrol station, or someone you don't know, but you have the same wishes. And then you can even bring up someone that you don't like or have had a row with, find challenging, you know, and or someone from the political sphere that you don't like, and you do the same wishes. So you are equalizing your sense of equanimity to all. Because when we talk about compassion, often it's like compassion just for the people we like. Oh, I like that person. Yeah, no, try and help them.
And that's a good social work value, treating everyone equally.
Yeah. But is it really that easy to treat someone you don't like equally? Like, as you said, wishing them good and all of that. You still have this resentment towards them. So how do you do that? How do you manage to do that?
So you've got this patience there, so you're aware, so okay, so person A, he's just said this to me, he's treating me like this, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oof, wow, that's awful, right? So how do I then, I hope you're well and everything, you know, it doesn't sit right. So you have to really understand that there's a lot of work in play that goes on, and the first thing you could do is recognize why this person's like that. And be aware of, actually, this person has got so much different factors that have maybe created this person. Because, you know, humans don't really like, they all want to be happy, really. We are, if you ask anyone. So no one really enjoys being angry or, you know, mad, or they don't like it, even if they think that they do now, but they don't really deep down. They all want to be happy. So there's reasons why this person's speaking and acting the way they are. And you just recognize that. That's when you extend patience, so you become more patient with them. If they are really being rude or whatever, you know, it's not, you've got this awareness, okay, I notice that this person's being rude, this is definitely a dislike, this is making me feel emotional, this is making me feel resentment, you know, so now that's there, but I'm going to be patient still. So how does this translate to, you know, because you've got that awareness, and that awareness of what this person's like, you bring your wisdom into it. What's the best way to act with compassion for also myself? Actually, it could be telling this person no, setting boundaries. It could be that's actually compassionate for yourself and them in the long run. It could be you know, approaching a conversation differently. Could be trying a different tactic. It could just be being aware of actually there's some heat here and it's not actually about you. So you recognise, oh, actually I've personalised this. You know, and it's actually nothing to do with me. You know, you put on a different mask and a different wig,
So
and someone else came in, it'd be different.
Thinking out of the box a little bit, maybe.
I think creativity and imagination comes into it a little bit, because you've got to be like, well, actually, what else could I do to kind of, and it could just be downright that you have it out with the person, conflict. You know, I actually think you're behaving really badly. Don't want to be spoken to like that. I won't be coming back here until this changes. You know, that is still conflict, but it's you standing up for yourself, because you say, look, I'm feeling bitter and resentful now the way you're acting.
Yeah, and you might find that some people actually don't realise.
Exactly. Till you speak up, and they'll feel like, oh,
yeah. Well, exactly. So it's like, I think in the first instances, without equanimity, you've got a person who's rude and there's just a conflict. It might be a fight. You just disengage. I'm not working with them anymore. I just you know, get away. There's no point. And you just shut down, and that might be it. But then you probably feel some kind of emotional charge from that lingers, and then you kind of, it might feed in the same kind of narrative, oh, I don't stick up for myself, or, you know, why do I let people speak to me like that? So it could be about you just recognising that and creating healthier boundaries for yourself. So you're aware of that. It could lead to conflict. You know, I don't believe equanimity is passive, but completely active. And if you've got the view of compassion doesn't have to be all fluffy and nice. It can actually be difficult, or
because having compassion for yourself could be getting rid of that toxic person. Maybe. By being quite strict. You know, even though that's hard to do, and you maybe don't want to do that. Maybe sometimes you need to have compassion for yourself.
Because it goes differently, doesn't it? Like, you can be all compassionate or nice, but you know, if for example you've got a child and it runs out into the street and it might get run over, you can be all compassionate and you take the child back and sweet talk them, please don't do that, you know, it's really dangerous, whatever. So you're compassionate, right? But then it does it again, right?
Yeah. So
you're
be a bit more
oh my God, you've got to be a bit wrathful now. You've got to be like, excuse me, what the hell are you doing here? This is, you're in your room now for a bit. You know, you've got to learn. You might do it again, right? So you might build a fence. I don't know, you've got coercion. You've got deterrence. You've got different tactics that you can utilise in the name of compassion. Because actually, in your role with the power over, you know, there is a sense of you are providing a service, a social service, which, you know, is, you may know more or what the person needs before they know it, right? So you might be come across as really strict, abrasive, but you're actually being compassionate. So it's a completely wrong view to just think of compassion as this fluffy, woolly little thing that is.
That's quite a new. To be honest, I never really thought of it in that sense.
Me too. And it makes sense.
I've always thought of compassion as being not
nice,
fluffy, but sort of,
being nice
being
and
kind
all that.
I think it's got different faces. It's again broad brush and misconceptualized, I think, sometimes. There's a lot of good practice and compassion, but you know, how do you really teach it and learn it? It's experiential. The same as equanimity, it's experiential, as in you really have to embody it. This isn't just some academic thing that you can like, oh, look at that, oh, I know it now, I'm compassionate. You know?
Everyone's different.
And it's more like a skill you build, you know. It's not something you learn from maybe books, and it's just it's a skill you get to build. In the course of working with people, you just maybe build the
looking
skill.
at different people's situations, looking at like
and trying to understand,
looking at the background, why they like this,
trying to understand exactly. So you just find out that you've built this skill, and it's just something you build.
That's why the meditations are good, because obviously you got all the blah blah, you understand, we chat about it, I know about equanimity now, but how do you feel equanimity? That's when you go into meditations, because you're really like consciously bringing up different people and working with it on a different level, deeper level. Because chatting about it, it stimulates the intellectual mind. It's all in the realm of thought, you know, brilliant, great, blah, blah, blah. But it often gets lost. And so you have to kind of feel these qualities. And that's by spending time, trial and error, practice, up and down. But you like kind of creating that sense of equanimity in yourself. It's a dual thing. It's not just knowledge based, and it's a feeling thing.